Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to continue our look at Off Comix. We're up to number 8 here, still at the dawn of the 80s. We have another one of those great covers showing all the features. Most of these are drawn by Gilbert Shelton. And we have a new feature, Cartoonist of the World. This is pretty exciting. There's some great stuff in here. Gilbert Shelton does this great drawing, though, of all these nebulous foreigners. I have no idea what country they're supposed to be from, but I love this drawing. It's pretty funny. Also, we have the beginning of a Wonder Warthog serial, a 4-parter. So we have a little editorial here from Gilbert. And now we have a little half-page Fat Freddy's Cat, which probably wouldn't be reprinted today or printed in the first place. I should say this, it's 1981 now, to be exact. So now we have the Fabulous Furry Freak Brothers in Phineas Gets an Abortion, of course by Shelton, with Sheridan and Mavrides helping out. So it's some great work on the finished pencils and inking, or whatever they do. I still haven't been able to find on the internet what the breakdown of duties is when Shelton works with these guys. This is a great story. Of course, once again, we looked at all the Freak Brothers comics. I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty of this, but it's a good one. Phineas's girlfriend is pregnant, and she's this rich kid. She wants to have an abortion, but Phineas doesn't want to do it. Phineas wants to have the baby. So he goes to this weird doctor. He lost his license, I think. He's kind of like an underground doctor. And he says, you can deliver this baby with the wonders of science, recent technological developments. You can put this artificial womb in you, and you can get pregnant. You can carry the baby. Really nice art in here. Sheridan and Mavrides. I love that panel right there. So when finally turns, when it's time to give birth, there's a big zipper on Phineas. He unzips it, and all these little Phineas homunculi come out. These guys I love these guys. I love this panel here where they're running out of the panel, and this one's even clinging to the gutter as if it's a pole. I didn't notice that the first time, but a really nice little panel. And it turns out to be all a dream. And it's a big circle. We start off where we end off where we started. Really fun story. So next we have Jesus and the Bank Robbers by Fulbert Sturgeon. I'm a little worried here. I was just extolling the virtues of Fulbert Sturgeon's art last issue. And I think I mentioned how the 80s stuff that I first saw as a youngster, I did not like. And it seems like he's edging into that territory in this story. We see Jesus, and he's paying his bills. Kind of a convoluted thing. He says, maybe I should go back 100 years. And maybe that's when the final reckoning should have happened. I'll go back and see if that's true. He's kind of putting off the final reckoning because this Jesus is kind of he's lazy, to be honest. He's basically a hippie. And, he knows it's going to be a lot of work. The Book of Revelations type stuff. So he goes back to the Old West. It's 1880. And there's a gang of outlaws kind of hook up with him. They're a bunch of no-good-nicks. And he wants to fit in. He doesn't want to cause trouble, so he kind of goes along with them. This is what I'm talking about, this panel here. I'm starting to see the lax Frank Stack. And these guys decide to rob a bank, and Jesus goes along with them. He doesn't like it. And it turns into a big shootout. The sheriff shows up. These are the panels where I was getting a little worried. I'm like, uh-oh, this is the Frank Stack from the Amazon cereal and the later ripoffs that I did not like. I think those are like the late 80s. So Jesus runs from the law. And, he's a pacifist. He drops his gun and just says, I give up. But they conk him on the head. And they're going to lynch him. Do a little frontier justice. And so he zaps back to the 20th century. It looks like they did hang him. He was a little late in going to the 20th century. Because he's like, ow, that hurt. My neck hurts. Of course, I'm sorry, yeah, he was actually killed. But he waited 3 days after they buried him to rise from the dead and come back to the 20th century. You don't want to freak them all out. So here's the first chapter of Wonder Warthog in the Battle of the Titans. Now, these first two chapters, well, this is the first chapter. Second chapter, I believe, is going to be next issue or maybe the next. And these are from like 1967. I guess these first two chapters were published in a very small press comic. Let me double check. Oh, it doesn't. Oh, Wonder Warthog magazine, which Gilbert Shelton says is ultra rare. So this is back when he was working with Tony Bell. I should have looked this up, guys. Sorry, but I believe that Tony Bell kind of did the same stuff that Sheridan and Mavrides do. I don't know if he just inked or kind of helped with the pencils too, but it's also Joe E. Brown Jr. I think he helps with the story. I think Joe E. Brown Jr. couldn't draw, but we often see, Fabulous Fairy Freak Brothers with a little byline for Joey Brown Jr. I think he kind of would co-write with Gilbert every now and then. I gotta say, I really like this Tony Bell inking. It's just really I don't know, hairy? It's just really good, solid inks. So our story begins. We see a primitive figure stalking the streets of Motherlode, where Wonder Warthog lives. He creeps into the bedroom of Filbert Desinex, Wonder Warthog's alter ego. And he says, I can smell a warthog, but I don't see one. He must be in this human shell. So he hits him on the head with his club. And Filbert Desinex wakes up and is like, what the hell's going on? This is a really nice panel there. That's great. So his name is Piltdown Pig. And I guess 50,000 years ago, he got hit on the head by a dinosaur. And so now he just woke up, kind of traveled through time. He's lost and he's hungry. And he sees Filbert's dog and just throws it in his mouth. I like this reaction shot of Filbert too. That's good stuff. Of course, Filbert's just horrified. He's like, you ate my dog. And so he hits him again. And finally, Wonder Warthog comes out of the human shell. And he punches Piltdown Pig through the wall onto the street. So he's like, ah, man, I'm lost and I'm still hungry. So he sees another warthog. And he's stealing hubcaps. And he looks very similar to Wonder Warthog because it's his brother, Paranoid Punk Pig. So he's like the opposite of Wonder Warthog. He sells dope to school children. He, steals from people. Piltdown Pig instantly takes a liking to him. He's like, hey, you want help knocking off your big brother? So they plan a conspiracy to kill Wonder Warthog. Meanwhile, back in Wonder Warthog's house, he's fixing his Filbert Desinex suit. And he gets a call from the two other warthogs. And it's a trick. They basically say, oh, we're having a meeting of the Wonder Warthog fan club in an old abandoned warehouse. And we want you to come and sign our autograph books. They dress up as these women. Pretty bad disguise. And when Wonder Warthog comes all excited, he sees the autograph books. and they drop a giant anvil on him. And they think they've won, which we know you can't kill Wonder Warthog with that. You could drop a planet on him. He wouldn't die. So Wonder Warthog grabs him, shoves their head together. Very Three Stooges-like move. And a big battle begins. Look at this great panel here. Look at the line work on this body here, the musculature. This is really great cartooning there. That's amazing. I have a feeling that's Tony Bell. It definitely looks different than any other, all of the later Shelton stuff. I like this panel too. Kind of a montage of ass kicking. So they're beating the shit out of Wonder Warthog. Meanwhile, the noise of this battle is so loud. It transcends the physical limits of ordinary noise and penetrates into the fifth dimension, where there's a warthog from the future listening. And this is this guy. So he decides to jump into his diagonal dimension diver, which is kind of a time machine, which looks like a giant toilet. And he shows up and says, "Stop fighting, or I'll blast you all." His name is a bunch of numbers. The first three are 739, though, so I'll call him 739. So he comes from a future where everything's peaceful and tranquil. And he says, "I will use my superior brain to settle your differences. I don't like to see this violence." And all Piltdown Pig can think of is how he wants to eat all these other pigs. But paranoid Punk Pig, he has an idea. He grabs the ray gun from 739, and then he says, "Surrender, Wonder Warthog." So they got the two good guys tied up. The two bad guys are making a plan. But of course, Piltdown Pig is just thinking about, "Ooh, now I can eat two pigs." And 739 uses this kind of like personal body shield. It gets them out of the ropes, but it makes them crash through the floor into, I guess there's water under there. Oh yeah, because it's on the pier, this warehouse. And so he says, "Help, I can't swim." And so Wonder Warthog, of course, is a superhero, so he has to save him. And then paranoid Punk Pig, he says, "This gives me an idea. If we pretend we're drowning, this, he's such a do-gooder, my brother. He can't help but save us, try to save us." So they jump in the water and say, "Help, we can't swim." But it's really just an ambush. And Wonder Warthog's brother is like beating the crap out of him. But Piltdown Pig really can't swim. So 739 throws a life preserver to him, because I guess he's good-hearted too. Piltdown Pig says, "You saved my life. I owe you everything. How can I ever repay you?" So it looks like Piltdown Pig is, I guess, going to be kind of a good guy now. And then Piltdown Pig says, "Oh, master, the only way you could stop those two guys from fighting, those two pigs, is to kill them." And 739 says, "I suppose you're right." And he zaps the two brothers. And then we have a continued next issue panel. And is this then the end for the beloved Hog of Steel? So here we have the beginning of our International Comics of the World section. And this one's focusing on England. We have a nice little introduction from this expatriate American who lives in England now, Charles Alverson. And then it has little, tiny little bios for every artist. And there's some surprising names in here. I totally forgot about this. I've had this comic for a long time. I read it years ago. So we have Leo Baxendale, who's kind of like the grand old poobah of funny comics in England. He did the Bash Street Kids and Minnie the Minx. I mean, for mainstream publishers. He wasn't like an underground guy, but he looks underground. I love this cartooning. This is Spotty Dick. And these are just zany, funny comics. So Spotty Dick graduates high school. He's ready for a job. The guidance counselor says, "Oh, you're perfectly suited to work at the zoo." This is just crazy cartooning. It's very silly. This guy's a big schnoz, so the bus stop pole goes around it. It's just very strange and funny. So he has this kind of, I think Spotty Dick kind of has this anal fixation because he's always shoving things up animals' butts and pissing them off. So this guy says, "Okay, clean this elephant. Here's the brush." It's a big, long broom, basically. And it says, "Basil the Strangler Elephant." Look how this elephant is drawn. It's just like a Dr. Seuss character. I kind of like the shading here, the way he does that. And so the first thing does is Spotty Dick sticks the wrong end of the giant broom up his butt. Sorry about that. And the elephant doesn't know who did it, so he kills the assistant keeper who was training Spotty Dick. We see him just splattering him. So he says, "Oh, we're short an assistant keeper. We're promoting you." Next, he's got to deal with the python pit. He has to feed him. And I guess this python likes pork pies. And Spotty Dick gets a big cart of them. And he accidentally hits the keeper and knocks him into the python pit. And he dies. Almost every panel has a good gag in this. This is really funny stuff. And so now they need a new keeper. And the assistant head keeper says, "Okay, feed this hay to Rodney, the rhino." I like this goofy look on Rodney's face. And once again, Spotty Dick shoves the hay up his butt. Of course, he's furious, doesn't know who did it, and kills the assistant head keeper. It's pretty gross. He just crushes him with his butt. Pretty gory. So now he gets promoted again. And now he's got to, what is this? Something about the crocodiles. I think he's got to water them or something. So he's got this hose. He's stepping on it so it builds up pressure. And then he shoves the water, forces the the head keeper into the crocodile pit. He gets eaten. So now he becomes the head zookeeper. And we see this school class visiting the zoo. And I believe this is the teacher who told him it never amount to anything. Because, Spotty Dick is a moron. He's really dumb. He's very impressed what Spotty Dick has made of himself. He's like, "Wow, you're a head zookeeper in one day. Hip hip hooray." All the kids cheer him on. Happy ending. Next we have Savage Pencil with an odd little strip. I think the real name is Edward Pouncey. Savage Pencil started out doing strips for like NME, the music magazines. And they were kind of, he's got this very punky style. I wouldn't be surprised if he was looking at Gary Panter comics. Then again, I might have gone the other way around. I don't know. Because it's very, scratchy, punky style. This is basically a gag about this guy who's tired of music. He's tired of all these new bands. They all sound the same. So he gets into cooking. That becomes he sells all his records, buys a great stove, and gets really into the culinary arts. Kind of funny. So this is surprising. This is very early Alan Moore and Steve Moore, who they co-wrote it and Alan Moore drew it. This is back when Alan Moore was an artist. I think this also appeared in NME or Sounds, one of those music magazines. Three Eyes McGurk and his Death Planet Commandos. As you can tell, this is dense as hell. Alan Moore is just starting out, so there's some groaners in here. He's basically playing this for yucks. And I guess there's this planet Barfo. It's the last bar for like a galaxy. So it's a very popular bar. And I guess it's so out of the way. The galactic fuzz never go there. The cops. We meet Three-Eyed McGurk. He's this kind of mercenary, a very shifty guy. And his sidekick, Glassbrain, who actually has a see-through skull, part of it, so you can see his brain. He's hitting on this woman, and he's just a total pig. But somehow she's falling for it. She's like, ooh, how charming. And I gotta look really close at this. The words are so tiny. The Galactic Fuzz show up. I love the design on this. This is a pretty, like, almost trying to be like Kirby or something. So it's like the Fuzz are like, we're not here to arrest you. We actually need you. We'll pay you 10 million pesos to get back the living heart of the universe. The Zilchtrons have stolen it. And Dirk McGurk, his third eye, I guess, has a laser beam, and he kills the Fuzz, the cop guy. And his reasoning is, if they were willing to pay me 10 million pesos, it's probably worth way more than that. So I'll just get it myself and sell it to the highest bidder. So he gets in his ship, the Numinous paddle steamer, and they all head out. They take that woman along with them. And God, every panel is you could tell that Alan Moore, grew up reading Mad, the classic Kurtzman Elder Mad, because every panel is filled with chicken fat, sight gags, goofy concepts. I really love this era. Well, not this era. Alan Moore pretty much stopped drawing after 2 years. But on the internet, I saw one of his other strips, The Stars My Degradation. They're all up there on the internet. I'd highly recommend it. I think those were for NME too. Excuse me, guys. And, God, look at this art. It's like, he's a great underground cartoonist. He would have been if he stuck with it. I mean, this is great stuff. Obviously, you see some Wolverton in here. But, man, he puts the sweat equity in. Alan Moore wasn't fucking around. I mean, panels like this, every panel is chock full of characters and just so much to look at. So they stop at Depravity, the Sin World, because they have to pick up a friend of Three-Eyed McGurk, and it's Axel Pressbutton. So Axel Pressbutton's a very curious character in English comics. I believe, maybe Alan Moore and Steve Moore created him. Maybe just Steve Moore. He appeared in like weird little strips like this, Undergrounds. But then he kind of became a mainstream sci-fi hero in Warrior magazine, which I guess wasn't technically mainstream. It was kind of, ground level comics. But he started off as this goofy, funny character, but then kind of became a serious, kick-ass hero. Even though they were always humorous. The Axel Pressbutton stories, but they were like more straight, because this fungus is eating most of his body, that's why he's half robotic. He has this vile prejudice against all forms of vegetation. We see this tree guy ordering a bourbon, he just slices them in half. So they recruit McGurk, and he says, we got to take my friend Lonesome Henry along with us. And Dirk McGurk doesn't like this idea, but he can't really say no to not Laser Racer, Axel Pressbutton. And I guess this guy's the human bomb. That's why he doesn't want to team up with him. Incredibly dangerous individual. So this woman's name is Tabitha. And apparently she's a trollop, as Alan Moore says, and Steve Moore. And so she's totally getting into Lonesome Henry. It looks like they're gonna, have a little romantic interlude. But he says, oh, you can't do that. When I get angry, my spleen explodes. But when I get aroused, my gonads explode. So, I gotta get away from you. I imagine these are printed bigger. This lettering is very tiny. Maybe these were like magazine size. Look at this, all the work in here. Man, I wish I'm glad Alan Moore became a writer so he could write more. He probably wouldn't have made like 1/10 of the comics he made if he had to draw them all, especially like this. But I really love this. So they make it to the planet. I already forgot the name. Zoltron. And look at these Zoltronians. That's very Wolverton-esque. And they're running around just massacring all of them. And they finally find the heart of the universe. And they didn't realize it was so huge. So like, shit, how are we going to get this out of here? And some more Zoltrons show up. They kill Axel Pressbutton by hitting his button. So I didn't mention this, guys. Axel Pressbutton has this weird thing where he's got a button on his chest. And it controls the pleasure center of his brain. Because he's in constant pain. He kind of needs it. And so they hit his button. And Three-Eyed McGurk says, if the blast didn't get him, the orgasm must have blown every cell in his brain. And he's got a big smile on his face. I forgot to mention these. I just love these intro panels. The title panels. That's a great logo. So, we got a bunch of funny jokes with Glasshead, if that's his name, just being really stupid. And he's just really dumb. God, I love this art. It kind of reminds me of like a golden age artist mixed with a great underground artist. You smushed them together. So, Lonesome Henry, he, Thread McGurk, basically tries to rile up Lonesome Henry by saying, you know, what the Zoltrons do to women, they're going to do bad things to Tabitha. So he gets enraged and he runs out to attack them all. And he explodes. And Thread McGurk figures it's a good time to start making out with Tabitha. And they don't realize that Lonesome Henry, it's not just a little explosion. Look at this. It's like 25 megatons. So the last panel is Thread McGurk and Tabitha complete skeletons. Almost like a foreshadowing of those, the graffiti and Watchmen of the silhouettes of the skeletons kissing. It just says, oops. And that's the end of the story. I hope you guys are watching this on a big screen. This, because first of all, you're probably never going to see this anywhere else. Maybe it's on the internet. But I'm pretty sure Alan Moore's never going to reprint this. Especially because it's really surprisingly adolescent. Just a Thread McGurk is just this total sexist pig. Says all these sexist things to Tabitha. And even says kind of homophobic things. And it's just kind of like, ha, ha, ha. You know, that was very common back then. But I don't know, it's just weird coming from Alan Moore. But for the most part, really fun story. Though, yeah, not as, I never found Alan Moore when he tries to be funny. Not my favorite funny cartoonist or, you know, writer / cartoonist. These ones these little strips are by Edward Barker, and they're from the kind of like the PETA newsletter. So they all have this theme of like, you know, leave nature alone, basically. So of course, I've talked about this before. I think whenever comics have a axe to grind, they're not as funny because they're whatever, but they're pretty cute. These are pretty funny. The art's not that great, but I don't know. Given a few years, he might have gotten really good. I don't know. Never heard of this guy before. I gotta do like this one. The teacher saying, "What do you want to be, children?" I'm sorry, I should say the rabbit teacher. She says to her rabbit students, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And they all like say French rabbit recipes. And we see these kind of rabbit butchers who are like, Man, that rabbit teacher's worth every penny we pay her. I like this guy, Tony Benyon. He had this comic strip called The Lone Groover. I believe this was in one of those weekly music magazines from England as well. And they're just strips here. The gags aren't that great, but I kind of like his style. It's kind of fun. But it just has a nice look to it, even though the art's not that great and the jokes aren't that great. Very much about like the rock and roll lifestyle. This guy's a busker, but he's trying to make it, trying to get a gig. This is really interesting. This is Chris Welch, and it's called Thok Thok. It's a wordless comic, and we see this guy. He's on an alien planet. Kind of looks like a Mobius guy, and all of a sudden, his scooter or whatever he's driving, it starts going ock ock instead of thok thok, and it looks like that's a sign that it's not running well. So he opens up the engine. This little creature inside going ock. So he slaps it upside the head, and then he's like thok 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 thok, and then he continues on his journey. It's just a cute little gag. But this art is so interesting to me. It's just like, I totally see Steve Aloha in here. I see that guy Don Marshall, the great Canadian cartoonist who used to do all those things for Andromeda. Did a lot of sci-fi, but a lot of Mobius too. But yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing more of this guy. Okay, guys, this is a fucking masterpiece. We've talked about Hunt Emerson many times on this channel. Not only did we look at one of his great comics, Thunderdogs, but he's been in so many anthologies we've looked at. But I don't remember seeing this. And this is almost like Hunt Emerson. I mean, it's got a lot of funny stuff in it. But it's almost like he's just trying to make this great, surreal, beautiful story. And it starts off with, at last we had reached the tower. I believe that's the title. Just the logo alone is brilliant. Look at this drawing here. That is just fucking groovy as hell. So I guess this tower was carved from the last tree and preserved in plastic. Some of this almost reads like kind of weird poetry. The hut at the top of the tower housed the holy immortal who wept on his fingers and drank from his hand. I forgot to mention, it does rhyme. And pretty good couplets. So this guy and his brother were summoned to go to this holy immortal's, shack at the top of this tower. And it's kind of silly. It's like, we wound up his clock and we dusted his lectern, tested his plumbing and pierced his ear. Oops, that's the second half of the couplet, sorry. Very Dr. Seuss-like characters here, but way weirder. So it's just very silly. Almost like a Dr. Seuss children's story, but way more like surreal and bizarre. But I don't think I've ever seen Hunt Emerson draw like this. I mean, it's obviously him, but it's also different. Like just the shading, like this gray tone here. Usually he just uses line work to shade. Yeah, I love this story, even though it's just kind of silly. I love this couplet here. He says, he smiled and he winked, and to our amazement, he swallowed the ring and the riddle of life. The last thing we heard in the final few moments wasn't a word that would rhyme well with life, because it's gulp. And so I guess this ring is like the ring of reality that he swallows. So he descends into this gurgling plug hole of reality. The two brothers inflate a life raft. His Holiness farted, and out popped the key. The narrator grabs the key, and he sees that there's a keyhole on the top of his brother's tummy. The key fits. It says, I'm sorry, the key fits. I wonder. And that's it. That's the end. Except for this amazingly beautiful panel. Just, I guess, abstract art. Does that say the end in a weird psychedelic font? I don't know. I don't think so. But, yeah, quite a revelation. There's nothing Hunt Emerson can't do. He's such an unheralded great cartoonist. Okay, guys, this is the real surprise. This is a comic from Terry Gilliam from 78. I didn't think he did comics anymore. I knew he did as a youngster. But, he's already, he's not that successful as a director yet. He hasn't done Time Bandits. He'll do that next year, I believe, maybe in 2 years. But he's already co-directed Life of Brian, Jabberwocky, all that stuff. He's a player in the film business. And it starts off with this little pamphlet. This tiny print is circled. These simple exercises are suitable, however, for either sex. However, none of them should be attempted within 4 hours of a large meal. So we see this guy just finishes dinner, sits in his chair. He's got a crick in his neck. And so he does a few of these relaxing exercises, which that's some great comical drawing there. And then all of a sudden he goes, cramps. And he's like, the pain. And he starts sinking into the carpet. Help, cramps, I can't swim. And the wife comes in and is like, I didn't hear what you were saying, Lester. Where are you? Another unfortunate victim of small print, because he didn't read this. But this is some really nice stuff. I mean, I guess I don't know if I need to explain it, but the old wives' tale of you shouldn't go swimming a few hours after you eat because you'll get cramps. And that's what that's all about. You probably knew that, though. I'm over-explaining. And then this is interesting. The first time we actually have a color strip on the back of Ripoff instead of one of those Gilbert Shelton paintings. And this is the Fabulous Furry Freak Brothers. And it's just a one-page gag. And I can't remember. I don't think this was reprinted in the Fabulous Furry Freak Brothers. I'm probably wrong. I have no memory. But I don't remember a color strip ever being on the back cover of those, comics. And this is a pretty good gag. They see a car in front of them. Honk if you love Jesus. And Phineas says, Jesus wasn't a bad guy. He had some good ideas, so he honks his horn. And this guy looks just like Jesus comes up in a business suit, like he's a yuppie. He says, what the fuck's your problem? The light's still red. Why you fucking honking at me? I'm gonna bash your fucking hippie face to a bloody pulp. And he drives off saying Christ. And they're kind of in shock, the Freak Brothers. Goodness gracious, what kind of Christian was that? Must have been a Visigoth. And once again, Shelton, Sheridan, and Mavridas. So maybe, I don't know. I should have looked it up, guys, sorry. But this might be unique to this ripoff comic. But I'm sure it's reprinted somewhere. There you go, guys. A really good issue of Ripoff Comics, number 8. And I'm really digging this art, cartoons from around the world. Can't wait to see what next issues is, because I'm not going to peek. I'll find out when you guys find out. But hope you guys like looking at this issue. And things are really looking up for Ripoff Comics in my book. Hope to see you next time here at the Herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.